Again, in relation to our original or our first module looking at race and ethnicity, we see women, or the idea of woman, as being another. So we looked at the way, in the race and ethnicity module, we looked at the ways in which non-Anglo cultural groups were constructed as being an other. Literally, in the examples that we looked at, non-human. Non-human. So we can see, once again, historically, masculinity has been constructed as the norm against which femininity is judged against. So if we think about some of the binary oppositions that exist to construct differences between men and women, we can see that othering process in action. So we can talk about men as being active, women as being passive, men as strong, women as weak, men as the breadwinner, woman as the homemaker. Very clearly a smart, stupid binary opposition still occurs, through the idea of the bimbo and the dumb blonde. And when it comes down to those, very obviously derogatory categories, which are quite often sexualized in relation to women, and I'm talking about words like slut and whore, deeply, deeply derogatory terms which focus on women's sexuality. If you stop for a minute and think, there are very few, if any, male equivalents. So we can talk about the man whore or the man slut, which are terms which are used in everyday conversation, and no doubt you're familiar with those as ways of talking about men in relation to their sexual behavior. But the significance here is that it's still inherently or a female term, or the root of the term is still inherently female. We just attach the word man to it. So the woman is constructed as deviant, whereas masculinity remains the norm, unquestioned. So, we talk about women's sport where we don't use men's sport, or very rarely, in sports where men and women compete at in equivalent competitions such as swimming, athletics, things like that. We can talk about that, but we can make a distinction. But we talk about women's cricket, but we never use the word men's cricket. We talk about female comedians, but we never talk about male comedians. They're just comedians. So through our everyday language, the woman, or femininity rather, is positioned as the other. And this idea of the woman as the other gets carried over into how the media portrays women visually. So we're talking about photographs as we see here, or in film and television texts or audiovisual texts, which we have a look at in this section of the module. Visually, women have been represented as the other, or constructed as the other, through the idea of the male gaze. So the male gaze is the idea that in mainstream popular culture, the camera lens, the lens which films, is characterized as male. The male camera looks at the woman, who then becomes the object of our gaze. So the camera within mainstream popular culture interrogates, evaluates, judges, and objectifies women.